call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please roll call, please.
Councilmember Ashluni.
Present.
Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Councilmember Cusick.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gazelle.
Present.
Mayor Kajirski.
Here.
Okay, you need a motion for,
Yes, Bruce is out of town and Tina asked to be excused, so I invite a motion from the floor to excuse them.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, page 3 is the minutes from the January 17th regular meeting. I'd like you to review them very quickly, and if they're in order, I need a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? On pages 8 to 10 are various committee and commission minutes. Again, we're accepting them in the public domain. I need a motion to accept.
So moved.
With support?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public comment? Do we have any public comment?
Evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jonathan Walton. I'm an attorney, and I represent Harry and Lynn Kurtz, who live at 1040 Lakeshore Road. I appeared before the Planning Commission and spoke on their behalf concerning the special use permit that is on your agenda tonight, and I want to just address some further remarks on that subject on behalf of my clients. At the outset, let me make one thing very clear. Harry and Lynn have no objection to the construction of the new facilities at the Ford property. They have reviewed the plans. They have had a number of interactions with Kathleen and her staff, and it looks like it's going to be a first-rate development. What they are concerned about is that the permit that you are being asked to approve tonight not open the door to expanding the number and types of events and the level of activity at that property in a way that would be disruptive to the entire community. In Harry and Lynn's view, the last thing that Grosse Pointe Shores needs is another divisive public controversy concerning development in the city. And with that in mind, I have consistently asked the mayor, members of the Planning Commission, members of the council, and the city attorney to work for a result that preserves the quiet, non-commercial character of Grosse Pointe Shores. And I have received uniform assurances from all parties that that would be done. We learned last week that the permit language will include permission for a significant increase in use of the off-site parking, which is the grass fields adjacent to the Milk River on the south side of Lakeshore. The number that is now being proposed is 25 days a year. To put that in perspective, that could conceivably be every weekend from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It is a significant increase in what is being done in the past. And the concern that my clients have is that this will have an impact on the community, on the character of the community, and what they want to do is to make sure, and they ask you all to make sure that this is going to be done in a way that will minimize the impact. 25 days is a significant increase. Based on our recollection of everything, there are perhaps 3, maybe 4 events a year that use that off-site parking area. And when that happens, there's a lot of traffic, there are pedestrians going back and forth across the street. It is disruptive, but the historical level of activity seems to be something that everybody has been able to deal with and be good neighbors about. What is being considered now is a major increase, and coupled with the fact that the new facility on the property will include 100 additional parking spaces, it would indicate that there are plans to significantly ramp up the frequency and the size of events that are taking place at that facility. Does the council know what type of events are planned? Have your consultants been asked to consider the impact of this level of activity? The report that was presented to the Planning Commission from the Carlisle consulting firm found that, quote, "The proposed development will have minimal impact on vehicular and pedestrian traffic. The existing parking lot areas and roadway connections will be utilized. As such, traffic circulation will have minimal disruption to the existing operation." Is that still the case? Has the Carlisle firm been asked to consider the impact of 25 days of on-site parking coupled with 100 additional parking spaces on the facility? Was 25 days of on-site parking presented to the Planning Commission? How has this been studied? Do you have enough information to make a decision at this time? Another thing we would ask you to take into consideration is another one of your agenda items this evening, that being a presentation concerning the project at the Milk River, which will involve reconstructing all of the drainage facilities up and down the Milk River, including those at Lake Shore Road, dredging the entire river. It's a 4-year, $40 million project that will be overlapping with this major project on the Ford property. Has there been adequate consideration given to the combined effect of these two major development projects on traffic, on noise, on environmental factors, on general impact on the community? The way your agenda is set up now, you are not going to hear from the Milk River project until after you have voted on the Ford permit. We would respectfully request that this matter be tabled so that the factors that I have mentioned concerning both projects should be taken into account. I note you are missing 2 of your members tonight, including the chairman of the Finance Committee. And we believe that there needs to be more consideration, more awareness of the public on what's going on, and more input from the public. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any more public comment? We will have a public hearing on this matter, and it was, I know, John, for the benefit of your client, we had a town hall, a 2-hour town hall last Saturday, and we spent a significant amount of time. Kathleen Mullins was kind enough to attend and to reassure. We had about almost 25 people there. We discussed the project and the impact and what they're planning on doing. And the 25 days includes, like Kathleen was telling us, includes days that are reserved for neighbors that want to have events, special events at their house. Also, let's say a fundraiser, a political fundraiser, and they want to use the west side of Lake Shore. So Kathleen was trying, when we were looking at days, we were trying to focus on the needs of the surrounding neighbors. Also, I think a lot of the events are valeted, and the valet attendants take the cars across the street. There might be 4 or 5 cars. And that, again, would be a minimal amount of parking, but she was explaining to the residents that's what valet attendants do. They take the cars off the site. And that would, again, of course, that would count as one of the days. Again, we'll have a public hearing about this, and we'll, again, detail maybe some of the things that we discussed with the public at the town hall. Is there any other public comment? If not, the next item is Brett Marshall, the tree board. And since spring has already started, you could tell us what,
It's coming fast, isn't it?
mhm.
Don't hold your breath, because I think winter's still coming. Good evening, Mayor, Mr. Council. Please excuse my shiners here. Had a little surgery, and I wasn't involved with the IRS or nothing like that. Everything is good on my end, so. I'd like to begin with the Tree City application. It has been accepted by the Arbor Day Association. I'd expect approval soon. And once that goes through, this will be our 15th year as being recognized as a Tree City USA, one of only 3,000 cities across the nation, so we do have some pride there. Our tree planting program concluded last fall with the planting of 14 trees throughout the village. Our contractor, once again, was Marine City Nursery, as in the past. We had lost approximately 33 trees to disease and structural damage, and we will continue to plant that as every fall. And that is sponsored by the Improvement Foundation, who picks up the entire tab for that. Our tree trimming program, which is basically the trimming of the street trees between the curb and the sidewalk, continues. We'd like to thank you for budgeting the money as we work our way through Zone 4, which is obviously the Deeplands area. We continue to trim our trees and keep them elevated off the sidewalks and whatnot. And looking forward to May already, springtime. Sunday, May 7th will be our annual Fun Run Arbor Day. We'll be planting a tree in observation of the national holiday. So please join us bright and early Sunday morning, May 7th. And finally, a quick note about a resident who called me. She was concerned about the trees in the park, Osius Park. And she generously donated a serious sum of money to get some tree trimming done on her behalf. So you'll see some tree trimming going on in the park, and she was so happy with it, she donated some more money to further continue some trimming. So we have some great residents here in the shores, and we have one that's very, very generous, and she wishes to remain anonymous, of course. But by the time summer gets here, we should have some serious tree trimming going on in the park. Otherwise, that's a brief report on the tree board. Any questions at all I may answer for you?
Any questions from Brett? Brett, how many trees do we have in inventory on the public
In
property?
the village itself, approximately 3,000.
3,000?
Maybe 3,300, somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay.
It's a hard number to pin down, as you can imagine, but somewhere around the 3,000 mark.
Because after our town hall, I walked on the Stackpool property, as we discussed doing. I had never been on it, and I saw tags on almost every tree. Are those our tags?
Those are private trees. That was a private inventory done by I'm assuming the Stackpole Estate or the trustee.
Okay,
We do not go on to private property. Those are only city-owned
Okay.
trees.
Is the park not included in our tree trimming program?
It is, but when we accepted a generous donation such as this, we got ahead of schedule, so.
Okay.
But your budgeted money is strictly for the street trees until we get through each zone. And so by end of the fall, we should be through Zone 4, I believe.
okay. Thanks, Brett.
We're doing good.
Okay, good work.
Thank you.
Well, the next item is item 8, the public hearing on the special land use request for the Ford House. Mary, do you want to just introduce the topic? And again, we're going to have a lot of discussion on this.
Yes, good evening, council and mayor and the public. The item, of course, is special land use request from the 1100 Lakeshore Road. We had a meeting at the Etzel and Eleanor Ford House, and discussion ensued. There were not any objections, and there was one, of course, Mr. Walton represented Mr. and Mrs. Kurtz. They did not have any objections, according to Mr. Walton, with this special land use. Now, the Planning Commission has discussed this. We had the presentation. Kathleen presented some of it, and also the architects and the planners. And the Planning Commission voted unanimously for this project, and Mr. Gazelle abstained because he has to vote here today. There were conditions set also, or not set, but actually inquired. Mark, are there any other letters or objections to that?
No, had no
So in that case, then, the Planning Commission recommends, when those conditions were to be met, and since they are met, they voted unanimously again, and Mr. Gazelle abstained. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer, and I know that the representatives are here if you care to speak with them and answer any
Okay.
questions by them.
Well, thank you, Mary. Mark, do you want to add to it, or, and then I'd like Kathleen to present.
Kathleen can make a presentation. This was gone through in detail by the planning commission, and it was reviewed by the city's consultants, Carlisle Workman, and as a result of the planning commission meeting and the comments made there, the proposed condition to be included in the possible approval was developed between the attorneys for the city and the Ford House. I would just indicate that Ford House has been a good neighbor to the city. We frequently hear from them as to activities, and if there were any issues in the past, as there have been in a few cases with some of the residents, police that were involved in some of the occurrences, we're always very willing to listen to public safety or DPW, and been cooperative in the placement of the doggy things on the west side, because people used to just use that area now they allowed for the placement, and so we've done good neighbors as far as the city's concerned. We have no objection to the approval.
Okay, Kathleen, would you like to stand up and address the public?
I would, thank you.
Again, I appreciate that you came last Saturday, and you shared and allayed, I think, a lot of the concerns of some of the residents that were there.
Thank you, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to come over. It's one of the wonderful benefits of living and working in Grosse Pointe Shores. I think I have the shortest commute ever for any of us working. If I can take just a couple minutes to position why we're doing what we're doing with these new buildings. It really began a few years ago when we undertook a comprehensive site master plan for the whole estate, because what we wanted to look at is smart use of the estate, keeping in mind, number one, our priority is stewardship of this. This is something that Eleanor asked in her will when she left the estate, that we be good stewards and take care of this estate, its landscape and its buildings, for generations to come to enjoy. So we, as part of that, we decided that we're far more damaging to the historic structures and the historic core than any visitors or other use to the site, because I don't know if you all know that the entire staff wing is staff offices. We have 2, sometimes 3 staff sharing one small room in that staff wing. And that's a lot of activity. We're cooking in the little staff kitchen. We have all of our technology, our servers, all of our main line equipment is in that building. And what the board decided is that we should get this activity out of the historic core so that we can restore those pieces. We can restore the historic buildings. We can then restore also the landscape and bring that all back into the visitor experience for the tours or for the educational programs we provide. So stewardship is really what started this whole conversation for us. Removing the offices, meeting spaces, our storage, all of this from the historic core to buildings that are designed to take that kind of hard use. The other thing that we looked at is the visitor experience, because as I said to the Planning Commission when we met over there, we have basically in the visitor center that one, and you've all been in it, I know, that one large room that you can divide and do certain things with. That's our only space. We use that for exhibit, we use it for things like the Mother's Day brunch or the Easter brunch or our Nutcracker teas during holidays or for our educational programs. These things are constantly colliding with each other about who gets to use the space. So what we looked at, oh, and then my other favorite is our only orientation space that we have now to prepare the visitors to talk about Grosse Pointe, to talk about the Ford Estate and the story of the family, is we commandeered the coat closet in the visitor center to use as our orientation area. Then we commandeered what is the room for the AV and that technology over there, and people, along with the technology, hang up their coats. So we're consolidating all of this into these buildings. It looks like we're adding a lot of square footage, but if you take into consideration the size of the existing visitor center now and the office space that we're using in virtually every building, the main house, the powerhouse, the garage, that whole area in front, that's why it looks like it's bigger. We're bringing all of that down into this new area, creating offices and meeting spaces and storage and our reference library, those things that we have crammed in corners now. This new building is designed to separate those functions so that we can, at the same time, have an exhibition and have an orientation area for the visitors who come to visit. So it looks like a lot, but that's why. The other is the parking, and I want to talk about why that increase in parking. Right now, we park all over the site. A lot of us park in that lot up by the house. A lot of us park in there's an area over by the swimming pool area. Some park in there, some park in the courtyard, right by the historic garage. We're all over. This takes all of that parking and puts it in one place. That's what the increase is. It is the regular amount we are required to have for our visitor parking, and then it is the staff parking. That means that that area by where we're parking now by the house, that also then, when we begin restoration of the main house, can go back into what it was. That was the drying yard. If you've ever been in a meeting at Ford House, you've been in what we call the lake room. That was the laundry room. We can now put those back into being the drying yard, being the laundry room, and we can talk about what does it take to run an estate like this. You get the front of house and you get the back of house story. So that's really what we're doing. This is what has helped us. In our thinking about these new buildings, we'll be able to have those dedicated classrooms for the K through 12. We're particularly starting to go into the STEM area, because of we have 3,000 feet along the river, or I'm sorry, the lake. We have all the landscape. We have Bird Island. We have an opportunity to work with our local schools to really use that resource in a way of teaching STEM. So these classrooms will allow us to do this. We do not anticipate, and we did not do this new construction to change in any significant way what Ford House is doing. We're just getting out of the historic core, and we're providing a higher quality experience for our visitors and for the students, the K through 12, who use us. We are a 501c3. We continue, and we'll plan to continue to abide by the guidelines of this designation. We will continue to abide by the ordinances and the codes of Grosse Pointe Shores, but also our philanthropic district. We understand we work hard to be a good neighbor, and we fully intend to continue to be a good neighbor for everyone around us. We had part of what we talked about, Mayor, at the end of our conversation on Saturday was communication. And we have wonderful e-blasts that go out to all of our members and our whole database list. What we're going to do, in fact, I connected my communication department today with Mark in an email and said, we want to do this so that everybody in Grosse Pointe Shores gets those e-blasts. You're going to know what programs are coming up. You're going to know what activities are going on at Ford House. We are very happy to do that. When it was also asked on Saturday if we could have, when these new buildings are done, a Grosse Pointe Shores Day, and you betcha we can, that we would love for you, our residents, to be the first to see these new buildings. And Mrs. Kurtz even asked me recently if we would host an event there for the Improvement Foundation, and I said we would love to do that. These are great things. This is your community center in a way. We have us and we have the yacht club. We want you to be there. We want you to enjoy this. We want you to walk these wonderful 80-some acres, and I hope you will. So as for the parking across the street, thank you, Mayor. It is a compilation of many things. It's our events. It is, we have, the neighbors have asked if they can park across there so that they're not parking on Lake Shore. We're happy to make that available. Grosse Pointe Woods has asked us a couple of times if they could park there for a little bit of overflow for some of the things they're doing, and we have said yes, because they're good neighbors to us as well. You start to add that up, and we're talking about 25 uses. It's not 25 events, it's 25 uses. And so that's what we're talking about doing. We're not going to add 25 events to our calendar. So I think that is all I have to say. If I can answer any questions, or my colleagues who are with me, our architect is with us, our legal counsel is with us, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. And again, I thank you again for attending. And you were discussing how University of Liggett was involved in one of the science curriculums, and Grosse Pointe Public Schools had contacted you about perhaps having some classroom time for their students, their science students or AP students. So, I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things happening, and that the new building would be essentially a net zero energy building, that the heating would come from the ground through geothermal pumps, and same thing in the opposite seasons. So I guess what one of the concerns that you addressed was the wedding business. There was concerns that in last 2 years or 4 years, the Ford House had 2 weddings, or 4 weddings in 2 years, I think.
Had 4 weddings in 4 years.
In 4 years, and you discussed the
Family
the fact that it has a detrimental effect on the structure and a detrimental effect on the personnel, and that because of even actually legal concerns, you're not going to plan on any weddings, I think is what you mentioned. And
No. It is going to actually go up on our website. We've addressed what, how do I say it? We've addressed what we needed to, because we did have family weddings. We had to open
Right.
it more broadly. We have done that, and now we don't have to. They are very hard on the site. And we're fortunate. We have incredible country clubs, and we have our Grosse Pointe War Memorial. They're in the wedding business. They like to have those things.
Right.
And it's much more suited. Plus, the only place we've been able to have weddings is outside,
okay,
never inside. And
yes,
If I might say a few words.
Sure.
I'm Nick Scavone. I'm with Bodman, representing the Edsel and Eleanor Ford House. I just wanted to make a few comments in response to what we heard earlier about the 25-day use restriction, and I thought I'd give just a little bit of information about that process and the condition that's before you, the proposed condition. First, this is a request for a special land use approval. The property is zoned in the philanthropic district, and there are already existing restrictions on permissible uses under that designation. There are restrictions on new retail and commercial uses that are already in place and that are still applicable to the site as modified by the addition of these new buildings. So first, we're already subject to the philanthropic district's restrictions. Number 2 is we, at the request of the city, and of course some of you know some discussions that we've had with all parties concerned, worked on a proposed condition that would further restrict beyond what the philanthropic district restrictions already impose, that would essentially address the concerns that have been expressed by Mr. Walton and his clients. And in particular, it does 3 things. Number 1 is the condition provides for communication and coordination of the scheduling of events, which has already been going on to some degree or another collaboratively, but it's been sort of more formalized now that scheduling events will be done through a process that's been laid out in the condition that you have before you. But more specifically, to address the concerns expressed by Mr. Walton and his clients, is that we've agreed that the events and activities will be consistent with the Ford House's 501c3 status. That is not a requirement of the philanthropic district today. It is not a requirement that's imposed upon the Ford House property today, and it's restricting our ability to essentially operate as a for-profit entity, or to have any entity operate for-profit at that location, at any time in the future without coming back to the council for approval. So that is a fairly significant restriction on our use. It's a permanent restriction on our use. Go ahead.
Real quick, I'm sorry, the property, the philanthropic property in, let's say, the parking lot, that's all one, falls under the same umbrella, right? Or are there two different umbrellas we're talking about?
Well, all of the improved portions of the property are on your side of the ledger, but we have St. Clair Shores and the parts of the unimproved portions of the estate where some of the parking areas are going are subject to their ordinances, which coincidentally have a very similar philanthropic district designation. We liked yours so much that we convinced St. Clair Shores about a year ago to essentially adopt the same kind of thing because we were looking at the prospect of having to get variances because it was zoned R1 or the equivalent, and it was simply unwieldy, recognizing this is not a single-family home by a long shot. So they're both subject to similar philanthropic district ordinances. There are some differences between them, but essentially the entire state is subject to something akin to this. So secondly, as I say, we agreed in this proposed condition to a 501c3 restriction that this could not be sold to a for-profit entity and operated without having to come back to the council for approval. The third point is the reference to the 25 days. So it was rather artfully put that somehow this is an expansion of our events that we're currently conducting. And of course, anyone who knows how this process began, it's really sort of, it's not really an accurate statement because it's misleading. Because today there's no restriction on the number of events that Ford House and activities that they can have with overflow parking, none at all. And so we were approached and and to address concerns that have been raised by the folks who are concerned about this project, we were asked to agree to a restriction. And so the proposal was originally 30 events with overflow parking a year. We agreed to that. Then the proposal was 25 events. We agreed to that. Then we were again approached. It was 25 days. We agreed to that. Now, if you think about it, this kind of an agreement is a permanent restriction on our use. And so it will affect us 10 years, 25 years, 50 years from now. And so, admittedly, the number of events that we have with overflow parking right now is far lower than that figure. But we were approached about something that would basically restrict us in perpetuity. That number was proposed to us each time, and we ultimately accepted it. So the notion that this number was pegged so that we can increase the number of events that we're conducting is really entirely contrary to how the process was done. And Ford House doesn't have any plans to do anything different than what what Kathleen's already described, which doesn't involve some dramatic increase in the number of events. So I just thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to lay out those additional circumstances so that you, I think, have a more full picture of what really transpired. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Well, and Nick, I know you're referring to the page that we have in front of us, the proposed condition, which is 4 separate paragraphs. And paragraph 2 discusses the communications with city manager, the anticipated schedule of dates for the coming year of any large-scale outdoor events. Paragraph 3 discusses the limitation on the 501c3 regulation type activities, which means anything that's proprietary would fall outside of the 501c3 regulation. And then finally, paragraph 4 addresses the 25 days. And I think Kathleen, when she addressed the town hall Saturday, said that right now we're using it maybe not even 10 days, 9, 10, 11 days, not counting neighbors using it. And that there's no intent to expand it, but again, this is a document that's going to be good. The building hopefully will last 30, 40, 50 years. So these conditions that are associated with the construction of this building also have to last 30, 40, 50 years. I think that's what you said. John, would you like to further address the council? And, you know, I don't know if you have any further remarks.
Actually, I see Harry Kurtz. Hello, Harry. In case you have anything to say. Okay. I just wanted to be special to you.
Jim, would you come up to the front, please?
Could you please address the need to get another liquor license? I mean, we talked about this Saturday, but, you know,
Right. And I, that is just really not even part of the conversation. It's just been a passing comment we've made. There's no application in process now. We have thought that we have had requests, as I said Saturday, our restaurant is always getting requests for something different than beer and wine. We have what is it called? Tavern license now for beer and wine. And so what we have been talking about for a while, we decided to go for the tavern license, 2009, I think, is when we went for that, just to see if there would even be any interest in this. We looked at that time at going for a full license, and we decided, well, let's give it a test. So we've given it a test, and what we have said is potentially with this new restaurant, we will come to you, as it needs to do, for a full liquor license. But right now, there's no application. Nothing is being done right now. It's something that we will potentially consider down the road, but we have to come back to you for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen.
I have a question for Mary. Mary, this one thing from Carlisle Wharton talks about these issues that need to be addressed, and I got this piece of paper that says they've all been met. Have they all been?
It was about
Met.
parking, yes, and how many events.
There was
There
four
was
of
a
them
mis-
on here, and I didn't know somebody scribbled that on there, or,
Typically, when an applicant has met most of the criteria, the schedule, the meeting is scheduled, and there are some details that need to be addressed, and they were all provided, there were additional information requested from the applicant, which they were happy to provide virtually before the meeting. But later than the application.
okay. And then the other thing, you know, when I did my homework on this today and looked, and I seen this 30 annual events, and I put a question mark by there, and then now I see that things have been changed. But Mr. Walton, do you have a number in your head of how many days you would like?
We've been asked that, and our position has been that we're not going to negotiate the specifics. That's up to the council and the city attorney. Just to put our position in context, council is pointing out that there were no restrictions in the past, but there also wasn't a 40,000 square foot activity center with a ballroom and an expanded restaurant and the capability to have a great deal more activity, events, traffic, etc. We're not here to object. We are here to pose questions. As has been pointed out, you're doing something that is permanent. You know, there's going to be no going back and changing your mind once this is in place. And our concern simply has been to try and prompt people and nudge people to look at the impact on the community and assure yourselves that this is not going to be a big change, not for Harry and Lynn Kurtz, but for all of Grosse Pointe Shores, okay? Again, as I said at the very outset, the Kurtzes do not have an axe to grind with the Ford family. The Kurtzes are passionately concerned about Grosse Pointe Shores. And they have seen, I used to live here, they have seen, as we have all seen, a series of controversies in this community over developments. And the hope has always been that this will be different, that everybody will take the views of the public into account, will do a good job at considering all of the impacts, and we are simply asking that you adhere to that in your decision-making process.
Well, it seems like we're having to adhere to a number. I asked you, do you have a number? That, you know, you told me a lot of stuff, but you didn't give me a number.
We feel that the level of activity ought to be consistent with what it's been in the past. I don't have the historical data to tell you what's been done in the past. It seems to me on an annual basis, you have the Eyes on Design, you have the DSO, and you have the Humane Society event that use the off-site parking. I'm not aware of anything else, and
Yeah.
that strikes me as maybe, 7 or 8 days. So you're talking about tripling that. Maybe some days there'll only be 5 cars in there. Well, that's not in this language that I got an hour and a half ago. Things seem to work pretty well now. If you're going to change that, is that the right thing to do? That's our position.
So can we assume that leaving it as it is with no days, without like defining something, would be good also?
Well, the problem is it's going to be completely different, a completely different situation on the property once the new facility is built. They will have a vastly expanded capability to hold events there, which, is great. But let's not overflow that into the community and have a big traffic jam, for instance, on Lakeshore Road every Saturday afternoon during the summer. That's our concern, is the impact on the community.
Okay, thank you, John. Any further comments? Mary? Kathleen? Do you have anything to add to that? I know, again, I think that your coming to the town hall Saturday was very important. And there was a lot of good discussion about that because, again, I think as you indicate, you're vacating the building, you're consolidating employees. It's mainly for the employees. The special events are really not even thought of right now. And like Nick, the attorney for the Ford House said, again, there's essentially, that's pretty specific language that the activities will be in conformity with the local ordinances, as well as the tax exempt IRS rules under 501c3. So I think a lot of people felt better about that. And you don't plan a nightclub. You don't plan, you were addressing the restaurant concerns. You addressed the wedding concerns Saturday, potential uses. But, it sounded like a lot of the development is for the future, and that 20, 30 years from now, the classroom space that you have is really going to be more for science and educational benefits, and what that may mean. So I guess I should state for the audience that this was scheduled for a vote in January. The Planning Commission met just before the council met in January. The council of the Planning Commission, Mary, voted unanimously. I attended that meeting just to hear the feedback. And again, I don't know, does council have any questions?
I would just like to add that we asked for letters of objection or for, and again, the only one, it's not an objection, but a concern with the Kurtzes. And the reason I said Mr. Kurtz is special, because he is abutting the property, and that's what I meant by it. However, we did not receive any other letters. I've not heard from anyone in the community opposing it, and everything was presented what we had asked for, and therefore, again, the Planning Commission voted unanimously with Mayor Pro Tem abstaining for today's vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
And, I did meet John, with yourself, and you addressed 3 concerns. Number 1 was the construction activity, because it was going to be lengthy. Number 2 was the potential noise from the lake affecting surrounding neighbors. And I think the third one was the activity level as well, the parking level. So, and again, we're already getting noise complaints from the boaters that are using Lake St. Clair. Last year, we heard from a number of lakeside residents who complained about the loud noises and the music from the boats in Lake St. Clair. And the chief has a plan to address that this year. So we hope to at least alleviate that or mitigate the noise complaints for the lakeside owners. Again, and I think Kathleen, you addressed the parking, the off-site parking, which was to say that at this point, you don't anticipate coming in anywhere near that. But this isn't meant to be an annually, like a license that would be redone every year and we would meet. I think the ordinances require that we have this as a special land use, and it's a permanent condition, Nick, like you mentioned. This will last as long as the site's occupied or in a philanthropic district, zoning district. So, Mark, do you have anything to add? Okay, and the conditions have gone to all the council members, including the two that are missing now, that couldn't make the meeting. I think we heard back from them that they were pretty much in agreement. Although they can't vote by proxy, they were in accordance with, they were acquiescing to the work that was done. And Mary, you don't have anything to add?
No, unless you have any questions.
You know, the only other thing that I had a question on here too was the Milk River, and Mr. Walton addressed that a little bit. Your construction doesn't start until August of this year. Do we have the Milk River guy here that's supposed to speak? No, that's you?
They declined, that was on the phone, I mentioned in his report, I spoke to the contractor, and Brett has spoken to both Macomb County Public Works Commissioner, and they're busy on the sinkhole, and the Wayne County staff people have not sent someone to be with us this evening. What Brett has done in the meantime is a tentative meeting, had communication with Grosse Pointe Woods in terms of obtaining the schedule, and Brett will continue to go. There's supposed to be a meeting in March, but the department head person declined to send staff since they said they were short-staffed.
Well, they said they have
But we invited him maybe
small.
someone in the future. But in the meantime, Brett will be attending their meetings to be able to explain to staff here and to residents whatever the construction schedule is.
Okay, because it was brought up in your planning minutes,
Correct.
you know, that Mr. Carroll questioned
Yeah,
that also.
Commissioner Carroll had inquired about it because we had not heard about the construction at that point. But again, it has been answered by Mr. Wallenweber. Excuse me, I also have this frog in my throat.
Well, and I know, Brian, our city attorneys worked extensively, Nick, with yourself, and trying to, with John Walton as well, to give him a courtesy copy of anything that was developed. Brian, do you have anything to add? I mean, again, you've been through this whole process.
No. Thank you, counsel.
And that's
big
coming
bill
from
for
a
that.
lawyer, one word. Well, at this point,
No, I think everything's been covered really quite well by everybody, and it's reflective, almost reflective of every discussion that took place.
okay. Well, I want the record to reflect that, again, this was calling for a vote in January. We deferred it already 1 month to February, so we could better develop the conditions that are associated with this Ford House special land use permit. And Planning Commission agreed, again, and they followed the recommendations of our city planner that we have some reasonable restrictions, which, like you said, Nick, we don't have any restrictions right now. And so, I don't know, at this point, I entertain a motion to approve this as the conditions as a special land use permit.
So moved. Second.
And is there any further discussion? At this point, one last chance for the public to address anything that we haven't covered. And again, I'm repeating myself, but Kathleen, we had 25 residents, or perhaps when you were there, and you answered a number of questions from different residents, and everyone was really in favor of the work that the Ford House is doing, so. Well, at that point, I ask for a vote. All those in favor of the conditions associated with this, the construction of a new visitor center, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, passes. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Kathleen.
And I want to thank all of you, and it means a great deal to the Ford family to have the relationship between Grosse Pointe Shores government and the estate be a very strong one. And Mark and I talk about this a lot, and we'll make sure that those who come after us really understand the value of the communication and the collaboration that we have. So, thank you, and you will be first to see the difference.
Well, thank you, Kathleen, one of the jewels of the city, and thanks for considering a reduced membership rate, or, you know, for Shores resident.
I talked to my membership person as well today.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't think we had any lawyers here. Oh. All right, the next item, we're going to have a public hearing regarding our community block grant, Mark. The estimate of about $17,000.
That we participate in the county program with Wayne County. There's only 3 of these around the state. Many of the communities, we're an old urban renewal community or large enough, and I think it's over, I'm not over 35,000. You are a direct recipient. We have participated in the county's program. Okay. I'm not, yeah, this is not. We participated in the county's program for the last 4 or 5 years. And actually, 1 year, several years ago, I don't know if they were counting the fish in the lake or not, but we got a lot more than we get now. And one of the requirements for this program, for our participation, is that we hold 2 public hearings. We had an administrative hearing last week, and thank goodness a couple members of the council came, or otherwise it was Lori and I. Lori Duncan helped us with the application. And in the past, in following the rules, the federal rules, and that of the county, their target areas, we have used our funds, other than the ads we have put in the paper and things like that, to support a special needs employee, one in the DPW, and we also paid for a portion of the full cycle folks who help us at our concession stand in the summer. And that qualifies under the federal rules. And we also send funds, a certain percentage, limited to 10% if I remember correctly, to the Point Area Assisted Transit program. In addition, so that's our application for this year. I think the budget that we proposed that meets their requirements is included. It's about a $17,000, $18,000 budget. What Wayne County also did this year, new, is they took 10% off the top of all the communities and are creating a different program, 3 demonstration projects. So the Grosse Pointe and Harper Woods was our lead applicant on the grant application for the special project. We're waiting to hear from Wayne County officially about this, but we applied for 300,000 additional funds, and we competed against, or are competing against, Hamtramck and Highland Park. But the applications that Wayne, or the restrictions that Wayne County set up, is that there be a multiple community project, and what we've asked for are funds that would be administered by Harper Woods to put a generator at the SAC building, along with some handicapped access improvements, and some facility improvements in the lowest level that would allow that to serve as a warming and cooling center for people whose power goes out. And that Harper Woods would administer on behalf of all of the communities, the 6 of us, a housing repair and minor home repair program. And then there was also a request from Grosse Pointe City that a demonstration, we set aside a approximately $20,000, that for a public park across from the neighborhood club there that's used by the public and open to all public there, to see if we could raise additional funds to put special equipment to upgrade that public park. So that's the project. Our activities are to spend about just over 13,000 for the jobs programs that I spoke about earlier, $3,178 for hats, and then $1,378 which about covers the ads we have to put in and the public ones we have to hold. And tonight, our request is to, again, solicit any input from the public on these projects or answer any questions, and then hopefully council will approve the filing of our application, which is due in several days.
Okay, thanks, Mark. The approximate amount of the grant is $17,636, again allocated, as Mark has indicated. Federal law requires that we have 2 public hearings. We had a first public hearing at the last council meeting. This is our second public hearing. So we're open to hear from the public in terms of our application for the grant, as well as the distribution of the funds from the grant. So if there's any public comment, please come forward and give us your impressions. No public comment. Okay, well, at this point, we have to call for a vote. I entertain a motion to approve the application for a community grant, the approximate amount of $17,636 with the allocation that we have suggested here in the motion.
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you, Mark. Reports by chairpersons. Rhonda's not here today, so Mark will.
You get stuck with me twice. Couple things. There's nothing unusual in the wire transfers that they, for this Rhonda gave me a cheat sheet. On the check register, there's and we pay for the radio system, I think a couple times a year, but there's a check to Grosse Pointe Farms for $15,300 and change. Greek for Life has taken over Rizzo Services, and I think the mayor spoke about the mayor-manager's meeting a couple months ago, that their new president came and their senior staff to explain how they purchased Rizzo. Long before they knew there was the IRS or the FBI investigation, but they're quickly painting all the trucks green. And then Johnson Lewis is an insurance premium for a pension system. It's about $11,500 annual. Macomb Community College is the current new hire is in the police academy and doing well. Chief may comment on that because I think he's had some communication with the head of the academy. On page 2, we bought some ammunition for the officers, and we made our payment to Wolverine Freightliner for the new dump truck cab and chassis and some of the other minor items. On page 3, we purchased a number of the next set of new water meters, and then United Resource is our payment for services so far to the Lakeshore Road Interceptor, which the cleaning is done, and Brad commented about that too. On page 4, this is a project, I'm glad Rhonda is not here, but I can brag about this. She's done yeoman's work, and we've explained in the past that there was a confusion as to whether some of the new officers who are in the defined contribution program rather than defined benefit pension program are subject to, besides Medicare, which they are subject to, Social Security. And Rhonda, when this issue was clarified by our labor attorney, Rhonda took it upon herself to do all the adjustments, and the IRS, but getting money back from the IRS is really a trick. But we succeeded in excess of $40,000, half of which goes back to the city, half of which goes back to those individual employees. And she's done a great job. We got the final payment project is now underway. But if Rhonda hadn't done that work, could have been a disaster, could have required us to issue new W-2s for the employees, individually after five. But she took it upon herself to do all that work.
Are there any questions with Mark?
I just had a couple, but probably can't answer them. That tennis courts thing, is that for the company to come out there and survey this side over here?
Yes,
Okay, the PEG fees, is that cable TV?
yes. PEG fees are currently contributed to the War Memorial, who operated Channel 12. We're the only community that broadcasts the council meeting. And part of the agreement when we went into this several years ago, was that they provided us funds for some replacement cameras and stuff.
Okay.
So, and that agreement expires, I think it's September of 2018.
Then the other one, the last one was the Taser International cartridges.
Yep.
So those Taser guns are like printers? The gun costs $20, but the cartridge costs 1,000.
I can demo it for you if you like.
I thought you just plug those things in and charge them up.
Any other questions? Yeah, Mark, you answered my two big ones. I mean, there's a lot of capital items in this check run. The water meters, and those are the radio-operated water meters, the 20-some thousand dollars, and then the Lake Shore, that's 78,000 in the truck. The check runs approximately $520,000. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say yes. Yes? All right. Okay, thanks, Mark. And financial statements?
Financial statements, there's nothing new. I'll talk about water bill, property taxes, the Polk County Court is 100% collected, that distribute to the county and Lake Shore, South Lake Schools. Wayne County Board is 97% collected. City portion is 98% collected, and we still about 86,000 and change still due. We mailed out the notice to the taxpayers that, as a reminder, the last day to pay taxes here is February 28th. After that, they must, they're delinquent after the bills come. Water bills will be reading meters once again later this month. Bills will be generated, mailed around mid-March, and will be due during the first full week of April. And, the other thing in terms of, since Bruce is not here, Rhonda set a reminder in our budget process, Walden Partners, anticipating that, we know some of the expenses already that you started plugging in. We've asked for any of the capital items that each of the partners need to. Doug and Bob and Kay and Bruce will be meeting, Bruce is back next month for the council meeting, I think the very next day.
Right, the day after the council meeting in March.
All right.
I think everything Rhonda told me to say, and I hope I didn't mess it up.
No, thanks, Mark. The only thing I noticed from the water financial report is our repair and maintenance for sewers and water. We budgeted at $280,000, and we've already expended over $270,000. So with 4 months to go, hope no more water mains break.
That includes, doesn't that include the sewer, creek? And
Oh, is that the repair and maintenance?
and that's now complete. Brett will talk about that as to, probably by next month's work session, some material that as to how many tons of debris we got out of it. And, I'll let him say the rest if you'll do so.
Okay, good. Thanks. Chief, Public Safety?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. January, again, was a very routine month. There's really nothing to report of any significance. I would encourage all the residents to request to be added to the email list for the monthly newsletter. This is a productive way to disseminate information from the city. The information contained in the newsletter contains updates from all the department heads, as well as next month, or for March, I did a short letter on fire and basically addressing clothes dryers and the number of fires that are associated with those. As you know, from February 7 through 10, I attended the Michigan Chiefs Conference in Grand Rapids. The seminar addressed many labor issues, public perception of the police, and the state police has just completed this this brochure that they're making available to all police departments, and it is a what to do when stopped by the police. They're attempting to curb some of the police community violence that's been, what to do if you're approaching a vehicle, traffic stop, on the street, etc. So it's going to be very helpful. Soon I will be meeting with the current park rangers and advertising for additional personnel and staff for the upcoming summer. The officer that resigned from Grosse Pointe Shores in August of last year was a member of the Eastern Wayne County Special Response Team, which is that team is funded with 2 officers from each department in Grosse Pointe, and they form the 12-man team that is Grosse Pointe and Harper Woods. The officer that resigned was a member of that team, and so this past week, the tactical team commander he had tryouts that were for physical agility, firearms proficiency, and an interview. And I'm pleased to report that an officer who just reached his top pay status, PSO Jason Cook, finished with an overall score of 94, and he will be assigned to be a member of this team. So, and it's really it's a very beneficial team for in high-risk situations, for warrant arrests, etc., where officers with not with substandard training, but these officers are specifically trained in these events. And lastly, public safety officer, that's the recruit that's in the academy. He's in his 5th week. His reports are excellent from the academy. I spoke with Director Max Sood from the Macomb Police Academy, and he's doing very, very well, so we're pleased. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, have we spent all the money in the drug forfeiture fund, the $24,000 approximately?
No.
Or? Okay, so
To
that,
my knowledge, we haven't spent, I don't think in fiscal 16-17 we've spent anything yet, so.
because it's in the budget, I think, or in the financial report, segregated in the budget.
It has to be kept separate, and it can only be used for law enforcement purposes,
Okay.
as opposed to an OWI forfeiture fund that can be used general fund purchases.
And what's the total cost to pay the Macomb Academy for a training?
$5,500 for the academy. 1,000, up to 1,000 of that is recoverable under our 302 funds for training.
Okay,
We apply for that once they successfully complete the academy.
okay. Thanks, Chief. Any questions of the chief? Okay. I want the record to reflect the approval of the check run. I need a motion to approve the check run.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Public Works?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and guests. Thank you once again for the opportunity to speak on behalf of your Public Works Department. I have a lot of things today to say, but I'll try to go fast. I'll start by giving an update with DTE/InfoSource. Our DTE crews and InfoSource have finished installing the gas main from Lockmore to the city limits. Currently, I think they're right around Woodland Shore. And they're going to continue to work their way south to Moran, which is in Grosse Pointe Farms, and then they're going to return, starting to work on Weber. Then they'll begin their work in the Deep Land subdivision, and then Colonial and Stratton. Also, WOW is working in our community as well. Currently, they are working on Lakeshore Road, 825 to 888 addresses. And as soon as that's done, they're going to start with North and South Edgewood, Roslyn, Hampton, Willow Tree, and then Hawthorne. They're moving quickly. Their complaints are minimal, and it seems like we have a good, smooth crew with that as well. I've only had to talk to a few residents, so it's nice to have 2 different crews working in our community with not a lot of issues.
Brett, they might be ahead of you a little bit, because
Uh-oh.
they've already done North Edgewood.
Well, then they are. My email today said that's where they're going to be starting. They actually have
My back
dates on it.
window, and it's up there.
Well, they're moving right along, so we appreciate that as well. That's great to see them moving so fast. We've also completed our sewer interceptor cleaning. The job, again, went very smooth. United Resources was the contractor, and they just did a great job. Their employees were very professional, and I was surprised how well they got along with the residents. They had a lot of residents coming up to them and asking questions, and they were very good at disseminating the information and doing it on a friendly basis. When you get a call from a resident saying, hey, I just spoke with the people out cleaning the sewers, and they're very nice, it's kind of neat to be able to pass that along to you. We had no complaints regarding this project. There was, however, a heavy amount, or a large amount of heavy cleaning that needed to be done. In other words, the sewer was extremely dirty. And since it's been cleaned, I don't know if you remember a week ago Saturday, we had an all-day rain. The system took it quite well, and it's just amazing that the change that made in how our system works. I mean, it was smooth, and I did not have an ounce of sweat on my brow when that rainstorm came. So I'd like to thank you for that. With all the heavy cleaning, I still expect the project to come in at or near budget. I think it'll be within a couple $1,000s. So with a project of that size, we were right spot on the money. So the numbers will be coming in probably within the next day or two on the amount of material that was removed, and we'll be able to tell you exactly what was taken out of those sewers. But I can assure you it's been a lot. We are going to have to make a minor adjustment. We've been having some issues with our lift station the last year or so, and we found out during this project it was due to it just being overwhelmed with debris. So I think we may have to get on a schedule maybe every 5 years or so to have our lift station cleaned. But other than that, what a smooth project. And Grosse Pointe Shores is currently out for bid on our water main project, which is up near the Ford House. The bids went out February 6th, and we also had a mandatory pre-bid meeting on February 13th. This is kind of unique to a lot of the bid processes out there, but I like all of our contractors to actually come and see what they're bidding on and get a taste for Grosse Pointe Shores. We're in a unique community, and I like my contractors that are going to bid on the project to know that before they place their bids.
Hey, Brett, on that, are we gonna tear up anybody's driveway or lake shore or anything?
For the water main project?
Yeah.
Yes, that'll be going, the project, well, let me finish by saying the bids will be completed February 28th, which I believe is next Monday or Tuesday. It'll be here in the council room. They plan on extending the water main from Duval north up to the Ford Estate. We have a 12-inch main in there, and a lot of it's deteriorated. We're going to make some repairs there and loop our system, which will improve redundancy and also be able to supply more water to the Ford House. So it's a pretty neat project. And it was talked a little bit earlier. I've had communication with the Macomb County Public Works Commissioner's office. Candace Miller's got her hands full right now working on the issue there on 15 Mile Road. I'm fortunate enough to get a tour there tomorrow, so I'm looking to see what kind of progress they're making there. But the sad thing is they were not able to get anyone out here today to give us more information on what's happening with the Milk River project. I also had the opportunity to talk to Wayne County, and they are saying the same thing as Mark had mentioned with their staffing and everything. It's hard to get somebody to come out after hours to give or to disseminate some information. However, there will be an informational meeting held in Grosse Pointe Woods sometime in March. That date has not been set yet. And as soon as I'm made aware of it, I will disseminate that information to council and residents, and we'll get it up on TV and the internet and try to get everyone we can to at least attend it if they're interested. With phone conversation I have had with both Macomb and Wayne County, this is a very expensive and large project. However, most of the work is going to be taking place in their pump station on Parkway Drive, which is right next to the Grosse Pointe Woods DPW. They plan on renovating that whole facility. And being the fact it's a $30-some million project, I think the brunt of the project is going to be in that building. They're going to replace all their pumps, their blowers, and all their treatment facilities that they have in there. There was mention about truck traffic and traffic on Lakeshore Road that may be increased through that project. After speaking with both Macomb and Wayne County today, apparently There's a recirculation pipe that runs underneath the Milk River to keep fresh water circulating in the Milk River. There's a break in that pipe. So basically what you're going to see there is a loader and a backhoe and maybe a dump truck or two come in and do what's called basically a sewer repair. It's just going to be in the Milk River. And I'm sure many of you have been around long enough to see what the Milk River looks like empty. Many years ago, they used to empty it once a week and fill it back up. Well, they're going to empty it, make the repair in the pipe, and then fill it back up. There's also some minor work that has to be done on the station that's right there at the Milk River at Lakeshore, where the dam thing is. It's an operating mechanism or a pump station. I don't know exactly what it is, but there'll be some small work there, and you might see a utility truck parked in their driveway. So the information I have thus far is we're not going to see a lot of activity as far as heavy trucks going in and out. It'll be nice to get some good information that we can disseminate once it arrives here in March. So I will pass that on to you as soon as it comes in. And also, our water department continues to upgrade our water meter reading system. We currently are happy to say we are over 50% of our water meters that have been replaced or upgraded. And it was mentioned to me today that the readings, our water guys started reading the meters today. Most of their work has been done in spots throughout the community, but Book 1, he was able to read Book 1 in just a few minutes because most of everything has been converted already, so that's already making an impact on our water meter reading. And as also mentioned earlier, that our cabin chassis has been delivered. Currently, it's in Ithaca, Michigan, getting outfitted with its dump body, its snowplow, and its salt spreader, and snow fighting equipment. And I'd like to see it here in Grosse Pointe Shores sometime here, probably in late March is when it'll be ready for us. That is all I have. If there are any questions, I can try to answer them at this time.
Thank you, Brett. Are there any questions of Brett? And I imagine we haven't used any snow lately, so we don't have
Yes,
to buy
we
any.
are,
I mean, any salt, I mean. It's not salt, snow, salt.
Keep buying it, though, it seems like.
Yeah. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Park and Harbor, Bob?
Okay, Park and Harbor did not authorize or request a increase of well rates this year. I didn't like that, but that's what they made the decision. But they did commit to a 3% raise in November. I will bring that back to council in the next 1 or 2 meetings. One thing was cost about, maybe we should have a surcharge for water and electric for the non-metered customers. So we're gonna review that, we wanna talk to Ms. Rhonda about that, and see if that's, what that could be. That's something to take a look at. Other places do that. The only well rate that town was either come up with is the farms is increasing 3% every year to pay off the big bond they have for the, I may take a look at that and bring that back to council too for review. The decking repairs are gonna start soon as the screws come in. Used up to 50,000 screws, and that's basically gonna be the 3 docks this closest to the ground level here. And it's gonna focus around the entrances to the 3 fingers that go out. That should complete a lot of the repairs. There's some other damage, but it's minor, and we won't touch that this year. We'll work on that next year. The swim team's looking for volunteers to help out during the swim meets. So if anybody's got some ambition to help out, give the office a call and give you a name, and I'll give it to our park swim pool manager. I don't know exactly what her title is. But I will be bringing back the thing about the increase in one of the next 2 meetings or something like that. Other than that, that's all I have right now, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Bob. Any questions of Bob? I know at the town hall we had Saturday, there was one question about storing vehicles, commercial vehicles, and even with the leaves, the debris, if there's some way we could either screen it from the street or not park the vehicles there. Someone asked if we could be sensitive to that after the summer season. There always seems to be vehicles there, they said. Of course, we told them we had construction going on, and we were allowing InfoSource, I think, to park their vehicles there. And even for the leaves themselves, if there's some way we can alleviate that. That was one item that came up at the town hall, so.
Mr. Mayor, just to comment on that, at the last meeting we had reviewing some of the park and harbor potential changes, we talked about a row of arborvitaes across there, similar to the way the yacht club and Farm
Okay.
Park have, that would screen out a lot.
Okay, okay, good. Thanks, Bob. Legal, Brian?
Thanks, Ted. Since the date of the last city council meeting held on January 17th, 2017, city council, or city attorney's been engaged in the following activities on behalf of the city. First, we consulted with the city regarding a proposed no insurance ordinance, and that's an ordinance that would impose penalties, fines, on a driver that is within the city limits that doesn't have adequate insurance as required by the Michigan insurance law. We conducted legal research on that issue, and we prepared a draft ordinance for city review that was originally going to be on tonight's agenda, and it was pulled at the last minute for a little bit further review by Chief Schulte and other city personnel. Secondly, we consulted with the city regarding a recent medical marijuana transport case decided by the Michigan Court of Appeals that would allow patients who have been prescribed medical marijuana to transport that within their vehicles as opposed to in a locked compartment within their vehicles, similar to, say, a handgun. We also received and responded to several FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests. One was from the Detroit Plumbers Union. They wanted all plumbing permits pulled within the city within the last 12 months. We reviewed the statute, consulted with the city regarding that, and helped the city draft a response to it. We also reviewed requests from a group called American Transparency, and they seem to pop up every year asking for information on city employee names, wages paid, related nosy personal info. And we don't frankly have compiled in one source all the information that they're asking for, and can't easily compile it into one source, and under the FOIA statute, we're not required to create a compilation if one does not already exist. So that one was denied, consistent with what we did last year and the year before. We consulted with the city regarding a bankruptcy filing made by a city resident and the impact on that resident's property tax debt, real property tax debt. On the 55 South Deeplands project, we did really quite a bit of work. We reviewed revised subdivision plans submitted by the proposed developer. We conducted an analysis of the city engineer and city planner recommendations regarding the plan. We analyzed pertinent zoning ordinances and deed restrictions concerning the proposed density of the new development. We also attended an on-site meeting at the Deeplands property with city representatives, the developer, city planner, and a traffic consultant regarding traffic flow and other physical, logistical issues that might affect that development. We reviewed a traffic flow report prepared by the traffic consultant. We reviewed an updated city planner analysis prepared after the traffic consultant did his work, and similarly a revised engineering report prepared by the city's engineering consultants, HRC, revised again after the same, after their review of the traffic consultant's report. On the Ford House matter, I didn't mean to be glib earlier tonight. I could have recited weeks of discussions that we had back and forth between members of the city council on the one hand, council for the Ford House, council for the adjacent landowner that appeared tonight. Really lots of work on that in terms of reviewing and revising the special land use condition that city council ultimately approved tonight. And that was a surprising amount of work over something that initially, at least, we thought was going to go rather smoothly and rather quickly.
Okay.
That's my report.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions? Mark, your report?
Yes, as the chief attended his annual meeting Association. Then it became Michigan Local Government Managers Association. We thought if you pronounce the acronym, it's MOLI. And now they changed the name again to the Michigan Municipal League Association. Anyway, it was a great program. We all bought jackets that have the new logo on it. It's not worn enough, although it's been worn. Wear the thin jacket that we all bought. But I appreciate going to that. And in my status as one of my volunteer activities as a senior advisor, my wife said I qualify as senior, but she wouldn't take my advice on it. I guess some managers do this, and we try to help those that are either new, and I had lunch with Randy Skatarchuk and his new assistant in Hartland Woods, and we thanked them and their staff for putting together that CCG application. I'm just hopeful we'll get that funded. But I'm glad Dr. Rahi is here tonight, because I love to tell him WOW is under construction. We hope you're going to be the first potential. But this is as January 31st. 82% of the underground is complete. I think all of that is now complete. And probably over 10% of the aerial on poles is complete. They think that they'll be marketing late March, early April to residents as a service here. So it took years of bugging them and nice reminders from Dr. Rahi to see if we couldn't get competition. So
Sorry, Mark, are they doing door to door? How did we ever
they
resolve
will
that? I
do
forgot.
Door to door down the road. As Brian pointed out, while our ordinance, I think, was in conflict with some recent court decisions, but we'll provide plenty of notice to people so that they will see solicitors only for that particular service. One of the things what Rhonda does for us, and again, she'd be embarrassed if I told you this, but each year she has been working with our primary bank, JP Morgan Chase, and this year we are, for 2015, our total expenses associated with the bank were $3,695, down from $4,135 the year before. So playing the float, keeping enough there, and only transferring as we have to, has resulted in a significant reduction in our fees. And she does that every year for us. I attended Wayne County at SEMCOG, had a presentation by County Executive Evans on some of the issues with local government finance. And this ties into our participation also in the lawsuit against the state on the Headley and Proposal A things. The state has clearly balanced their budget by charging all of the cities and reducing the portion of revenue sharing that legally they can. Revenue sharing is divided into the constitutional portion, the statutory portion. And of course, one of the issues in Headley was if they made you do something they were supposed to pay for, and they do pennies on the dollar for the things that we're required to do. Staff has asked me, we've had good, and the chief mentioned this earlier, good, on the monthly email that goes out to those that have signed up, we'll be sending, with the Park Pass application, a sign-up sheet reminding people to please do sign up. And they'd love to eliminate the cost of the paper newsletter. But my suggestion, unless there's a difference on council's opinion, is that we probably do it for 1 more year until we have more people sign up for the thing. And again, we want to give people multiple opportunities to get information from the city. And while it would be some savings for the mailing and for the paper newsletter, maybe we find out if more people sign up.
How many people are on the email blast?
I should have asked that, but I'll send a note to council.
Okay.
with how many people have signed up for that.
Pardon?
I think about 500.
500?
Yes.
And we have 1,500 residents, roughly?
Yeah, 3,000 total population.
Population.
1,200
Households.
homes, just under 12.
Okay,
Signed up
all right.
for it. We'll get a good feel as we send the form and get those things back. And to get a reminder to also, we're putting on the same notice that you can sign up for the Nixle alerts right from public safety as well as the newsletter. One of the things Rhonda did, you saw the article in the paper about issue in the Grosse Pointe Woods Court that both there and on the change in the finance directors, each of the issues have required them to do some additional search and brought in a consultant to help them. There were some mistakes made, and pleased to say Rhonda, who takes these things seriously, looked at every one of those, and one with respect to the court administrator, the chief, and Rhonda and the court administrator from the farm to make sure that we have provisions in place so that no one can attack that particular fund. We've had these in place for a number of years. And with respect to the mistakes that were made, payroll deductions and taxes, she checked every one of those and we're doing it right. So we don't have that issue. I mentioned the IRS refund, and again, that's over $40,000 split between us and the employees that she has saved the city and got that. The heavy lawsuit that I mentioned, been assigned to 3 judges to the Court of Appeals, waiting for the court dates. At the 2 items coming up for next month, for some reason, we never have established a construction board of appeals. And it's a statutory requirement that we have some. And the chief and I and our neighbor who's a builder, Ron Gagnon, to be the servant, will give you the formal request. In 15 years in St. Clair Shores, it met once. And it didn't meet at all in 5 years that I was in the woods. So we don't think there'll be much business for it, but it's a statutory requirement that we have such. That and no insurance ordinance will be. Assessment notices we mailed this Friday. The board review dates are March 13th and March 20th. And we asked people, and this is all included in the mail out, to call and schedule an appointment. And they'll be handled by WCR, contract assessment. Mayor had taken a walk along, thank goodness she didn't fall in, lose a dog at the seawall in the concrete area. So Rhett made, want to take some pictures, has taken pictures, sent it on to Wayne County. And sorry, we had jointly sent an application, us and Grosse Pointe Farms, along with support letters from County Commissioner Pinconi and County Executive Ward Evans. We applied for funds from the Corps of Engineers to study the permanent improvements necessary. They haven't heard a thing about it, but we did send the county that there's some repair necessary. Council may remember we had to put together a Title V plan. This is several years later after we used federal funds to pay Lakeshore north of Vernier. And one of the requirements under that plan, we thank Brian's staff, expert in this area, to help us review the plan, is we had to engage a consultant. We're using Stuckey Vitale Architects for a total of $1,500 to assess the handicap access issues associated with all of our public facilities. So we already know we got to stripe a couple of this Thursday upstairs, and hopefully that will, then we're able to go out for bids. I've received new designs which incorporate the circular turnaround, probably a stacking space for 8 or 9 cars as you come into the park, and will be, well, I wanted to do a foam style size. Person, various people considered, convinced me that is not in our standard, nor could somebody even sit down in one. So, John Kelly, and we'll be soliciting some others, pricing to do that part of the project as well. As I mentioned earlier, budget prep is underway, Rhonda had sent a note wall. So tennis courts are just about ready to go out for bids. We have one final shot. We'll send the final drawings to all council with summary as to getting this out for bids for construction, demolition construction of the courts in this spring before, and hopefully completion expected part of our bid things that will be completed before Memorial Day.
Good,
I think that's all the things I was supposed to mention.
good report, Mark. Any questions? Okay, if not, we have no old business. Are we adjourning the new business, Mark, because of the?
They declined to come, and we'll see if we can get someone to come in the future, but Rhett will provide, he's gonna be going to the meetings, and with the Woods, our arrangement with the Woods, will provide us notices so we can send other people if they're interested as well.
Okay. Public comment? We have any public comment on any item? If not, council comments, Bob?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
Alex?
No comment.
Bob?
Nothing further.
Doug?
Not this one.
I can figure out shit.
Well, I have to say something. Well, again, it's already been mentioned, last Saturday, we had a town hall, we had over 20 people there. It was, you know, we had really good discussion on a number of issues. The Deeplands project was one, the Ford House project, the Park and Harbor, and then other little things. Didn't touch much on the budget because we're going to wait till the next one. I already thank Kathleen for coming. She's a resident, you know, and she's the executive director of the Ford House, but I think that it was helpful having her to address the concerns of the new building. Our next town hall will be devoted to the upcoming fiscal year budget. And the calendar says it's Saturday, May 20th, but we may move it up a week because we may be voting or be in public, have a public hearing at the council meeting on the budget. I'd like the town hall to be before that. Last week, House Bill 4220 was introduced. Our council gave us a copy of it just yesterday, and they had a hearing today. It was introduced, which gives consumers broad authority to reject smart meters with little consequence. It applies to electric, gas, and water utilities, including municipal systems. There were hearings today. It was pretty extensive hearings today. I don't know what happened. And again, there's going to be a follow-up hearing. It's sponsored by 14 different legislators. So there was concern in our community about smart meters, and so this is just something that may affect those decisions. The bottom line is if you opt out, and you have the absolute right to opt out, there's no separate charge. That's one of the main differences in the proposed legislation. Well, spring's already around the corner, or maybe it already started, but as Bob said, we're looking for volunteers to help with our summer activities, including, we have a tennis tournament, chess tournament, fishing derby. We'd actually like to add a bocce ball tournament this summer, for instance. Our second annual Classic Car Show is scheduled on Sunday, September 10th. Rhonda from the city is helping in preparing a flyer. We're looking to add more fun activities in our park, but we need your help. Thanks to the chief now, we have a champion for the biggest fish caught last year. It's Claudia Halu, who caught it. It was a great fish, and thanks, chief, for ordering the trophy. We've mentioned this before, and I know, Doug, this is a topic that has concerned you, but we're trying to do a better job of communicating with our residents. We have Channel 12, we have our sign, our village sign, And we're sentimentally attached to that sign. The Grosse Pointe Improvement Foundation paid for it, and they don't want any changes in it. And I think we've talked among ourselves, and, but we still need to do a better job of communicating the events and situations. When there's a water main break on a certain street, how do we convey that information very quickly? Right now, I think we have to telephone people, and we do that if it's localized. But something that's a bigger situation affecting the city, again, we're trying to find the right balance. An email, I don't want to call it blast, but email communications with our residents. We have almost 1,200 homes, so if we have 500 emails, and I imagine a lot of those are under one household. So we have just a small percentage, or not even a third of the city covered by email communication. And maybe that's not the best or not, but again, it would be nice. So many people have told me, I didn't know you were having a fishing derby. I didn't know you were having a tennis tournament. I didn't know you were having this. And again, we probably need to do a better job of that. Mark is still working with our outside person. We're trying to have the building designated by the state as a historic structure. The application is almost ready to be submitted, I think. We have a lot of good pictures. Again, it's a very distinguished building, and the additions to the building that were done in the early 80s were consistent with the Albert Kahn architectural drawings. So we hope to have an answer maybe before the end of this year, before the end of summer. Our next council meeting is the start of spring, although you wouldn't know it. Tuesday, March 21st, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Hey, you know, at the town hall, there was a guy that was sitting right up there where Harry is right now. He's sitting against that wall.
Greg Ahey.
He wasn't a.
Yes.
Figured he was.
Yes, yes. I had.
He just sit down.